In this episode, I'm here with Cory Sterling, an attorney that specifically focuses on health, wellness, and fitness.
And something happens, the first thing that any lawyer who takes on that case or anyone who gets involved, the first question is going to be, were these people following the rules?
I've had Cory on the podcast before, but now we're here talking about all the things that you as a fitness studio owner need to know before you reopen. Okay, so we talked earlier today, and we're gonna see if we can get some great info out in the next like 15 to 20 minutes. And you had messaged me. We got that relationship, and you've been super supportive throughout this whole thing. And you said, Mike, I've got some information that I think it's important for fitness studios to know right now and through reopening and all that stuff, right? And so we're here. So let's talk about it. And what are some things right now that fitness studio owners need to be aware of?
What happens is like one or two clients are like about to experience something, or they think that they're about to experience something. They bring it to my attention. We have a team meeting and we're like, holy smokes, this is something that everyone who operates a fitness studio is going to have to deal with. And once we come to that point, it's like, okay, what is the solution that we're able to provide for these people? And how can we let people be aware of these problems and then also provide the solution? So the first and most important thing for everyone to know is that like there is no uniformity across North America or the world about what's happening. There's no rule book. Every jurisdiction is sort of dealing with reopening or staying closed or doing things on their own terms. So the first and most important thing is like follow your compass and do what's right for you and your business and do what feels right. And I can't stress that enough, because ultimately we're making decisions and we don't really know what the ramifications of those decisions are going to be. So just make sure always that what you're doing is something that's true to yourself and your brand and your team, and that you come at it together. The first and most important point about opening up, or what I'm calling post-COVID, it has to do with the importance of following municipal or state or city laws. And that's because, again, the context is I've been a lawyer and I've been on both sides of it, right? So I've been on the side where a participant who was working out at a studio got injured or wanted to start a claim against a studio. And I've also been hired as a studio or a gym to try to defend that particular claim. So the way that I'm always looking at everything is, okay, what would the arguments for both sides be? And what are the best things that we can do to make sure that, particularly in this conversation, that fitness business owners are protected? So the golden rule is what I'm calling it. And basically what it is making sure that whatever we're doing, we are following the appropriate municipal laws. And that is because at law, there's something called negligence, and negligence really just, it's another word for carelessness or, making a mistake that a reasonable person wouldn't make. And the first major issue that I could see coming up for business owners is doing something or operating in a particular way in which they are not following the municipal laws or the state laws or the provincial laws or whatever's being given out. And like, it's going to come down to things like, how many people are allowed in and what the spacing has to be and this, that, or the other, and all of those things that we've never really had to think about before. But you just have to understand that if something happens, and if God forbid, if someone catches COVID on your premises or is interacting with either you or someone at your business and something happens, the first thing that any lawyer who takes on that case or anyone who gets involved, the first question is going to be, were these people following the rules? And if I was hired by someone to go after a business because someone contracted COVID and someone was acting negligently, the first thing I would look to is, were the laws followed? Firstly, what were the laws? Were the laws followed? And if not, like if someone can show that you weren't following the laws that the government put in place in order for you to reopen, you're toast. You're finished from the start. And like, I also don't even know what insurance companies would say about that as well. Like maybe your insurance is contingent upon following particular rules. So that's like the golden rule number one that I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of. As well, a couple of suggestions that I've spoken about with fitness business owners is having a staff meeting and making sure you share those rules with everyone in that meeting. It can be on Zoom and you can record the call and you can literally read those rules out on the call so that if someone's going to claim that you were behaving negligently, you have video proof to show that you weren't. And the other issue, has to do with posting those actual rules in your physical space. Again, I think that's it's an easy and simple thing to do. But as a lawyer, if I was trying to come up with an argument against a business, and they were to say, well, actually, we knew these rules, we followed these rules, our staff knew these rules, and we posted these rules, it would be difficult to come against that.
Okay. Hey, really quick, how can someone prove COVID was contracted at the gym? Is there any way to actually prove that?
As you can see, I'm not a scientist, or as you know, I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know how this works, but this is what I know. So my answer to your question is I don't know, but I know that when people are trying to get money for some sort of reason, either for damages suffered or for illness, because whatever all of the negative things associated with, they usually go on something that's called a fishing expedition, which means they're dropping a line in the water and they're casting a net as wide as they can, and they're going to try to get as much money as they possibly can from whoever. So the sooner that you can have the great documentation in place and all of the things that I'm chatting about sorted, you'll be able to say like, okay, firstly, we really hope that it wasn't us. We don't believe it was, but even if it was, we followed all the rules. You signed these agreements. Therefore, nothing, like, you don't really have a cause of action against us as a result. And just on that note, I've also been encouraging fitness business owners to be prepared for the possibility that you reopen and that someone in your community does contract COVID. It doesn't have to be at your place, but like question one is like, what emergency PR protocols do you have in place for that? And like, how are you going to react to either if you decide to stay open, if you decide to close, and how are you going to assure other members that everything's okay? And these, like, there are a lot of these questions. I don't have all of the answers, but I think it's important to speak about some of them, but following municipal rules is really important.
So talk to me about some of the rules. When you say if you're an attorney that was hired to go after a business, what are some of the rules that you'd be looking for that these studio owners need to know they need to follow?
So now the tricky thing is that the rules are different on a jurisdiction to jurisdiction basis. And even I've been hearing from some clients that a municipal law will say one thing and a state law will say another thing. And that's how like confusing it is. So let's say if it was in North Scottsdale and that was the county and something happened and there was an issue, the first thing I would do is go to the North Scottsdale governmental municipal website. I would look at what they're saying. Okay, if you're a non-essential business and you're reopening, these are the rules that you have to follow. And it'll be things like, it could be things like wearing masks, wearing gloves, only a certain number of people allowed a certain distance close to each other, or this, that, or the other. And that's where, for me as an attorney, that's where I would start. And like, what are those specific rules? And then whoever's making the claim will have their story, and how do the parts of their story contravene what the rules were.
Okay. What do you think about waivers now with reopening? Do contracts, do things need to be adjusted? Do you have to have members sign addendums to existing waivers or contracts that they have?
Yes. So I would say 100% it's important to include COVID provisions in your waiver. And this is why. The first conversation you and I had about all of this, it was about how a waiver protects your business from the activities and the risks of those activities. And then also someone has to affirm that they're healthy enough, and someone understanding all of the risks has to voluntarily participate. Only then can they sign away their legal rights. What's happening now and what's different now is that the activities are different because people are now practicing fitness or working out or doing something in a space with the possibility that there is a communicable disease in that particular space as well. So what we've been doing for clients has been tuning up our waivers so that it includes something about the activities, the risks of the activities, and the affirmation of health is a really, really important part. And that basically says anyone who's coming into your physical space is signing an agreement before, saying to the best of their knowledge, they are sure that they are healthy. So they haven't traveled anywhere outside of the jurisdiction for 14 days. To the best of their knowledge, they're not showing any symptoms. They haven't come into contact with anyone. And again, all of this is just, it's growing, it's building on what we were doing before, but it's only because the complexity of what we're doing is different, and because the risks are different and the activities are different. And now an affirmation of health is different than it was before.
And when you say the activities specifically are the things that you said, they vary per jurisdiction?
No, the activities are going to be the activities of your fitness business. So if you're a gym, the activities are going to be lifting weights, cardiovascular, or if you're Orange Theory, right, it'll be on the rowing machine, it'll be stretches. Those are the activities. But, and just to quickly summarize, a good waiver of liability will always cover, it will always describe specifically what the activities are, what the risks of those activities are, what the outcome of those risks are, voluntary participation, affirmation of health, and then full release of liability. And again, when I've worked as a lawyer, either to challenge or defend these waivers, it always comes down to the specificity. Did I get that? Did we do specificity?
Specificity.
Specificity, Mike, good one. It always comes down to the yeah, I'm gonna come up with a cool word and then I'm gonna dance also, just so you know. So it comes down to the specificity. That's the opposite of dancing, of what's written in the agreements.
Okay, sounds good. So let's talk about with employees. What are the rules with employees now? Because obviously some employees aren't going to necessarily feel comfortable coming back. You know, what can you say? What can you not say? How can you say it? What can you ask them to do? What should you do? I feel like that's a big touchy thing. Some employees want to come back. Some employees don't want to come back. And some don't feel, though they will come back, but very reluctantly and feel unsafe.
So employees, it's a real question. And I also just want to say everything that I'm sharing is my understanding of how law should be practiced and how relationships should be managed. And there's no, like, it hasn't happened yet where there's a breakthrough seminal case about an employee returning to work after COVID. Like, we're literally writing the history books as everything is going. So I'm sharing my perspective and what makes sense to me. That being said, I'm all about communicating openly and honestly in relationships. And if you have a member of your team who does not want to be coming to work and you are quote unquote forcing them to come to work, that's just like, there's really nothing that good that's going to come about it. It even could make sense to just hire someone new instead of, like, quote unquote forcing someone to come, because who knows, like, what can of worms you're opening when you go down that road. But what I do want to say is the important thing.
I want to touch on that. So you said hire someone new. So let's say I've got Stephanie, an employee, and she doesn't want to come into work. Okay. She doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
Can I say, hey, that's totally fine. We understand it. We're not going to force you to come in if you don't feel safe, but we do need to find somebody that does feel safe in order to run our business. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go in a different direction. Can you say that?
What I would say is the first half of what you said.
Okay.
I would not explicitly state the second half of what you said. I don't think that needs to be said.
So how do you get there?
Cool. So a couple of things. So one is the sort of the sentence, and again, everything I'm sharing with the Loud Rumor community is just like, this is my approach to law. If you want to hire me as your lawyer, I'm happy to help. If you have your own lawyer, you should go to them for confirmation. What I'm telling a lot of my clients to say is, if you are showing up to work, you are doing so voluntarily, full stop. If you are showing up to work, you are doing so voluntarily, full stop. It's sort of like, sometimes it's a lot better to say too little than to say too much. So again, what you could do is you could have a Zoom meeting, and it also depends what's written in your employment agreements, which I'll touch on in a second. But, like, I would say that, and I would leave it at that. Now, how can one, the issue is someone could say that they're being prejudiced, or that maybe there's a human rights violation against them if you said, hey, you know what, you don't have to come to work, but we are going to find someone who will put up with the risk of dealing with COVID, and we're going to hire someone. Like, you don't have to say that, because that gives someone more grounds for a claim, or to make some form of suggestion or create an argument. So the first thing is, everyone who shows up is doing so voluntarily. In all of our employment agreements, we are now adding, like, a COVID release, basically, which states, like, hey, by signing this, you agree that you are coming voluntarily, and that you release us from any of the risks of what could any of the outcomes of the possible risk from COVID, full stop. Now, when it comes to terminating an employee, two things are at play. One is, what is the state or provincial Employment Standards Act say, and what are the rules around termination, i.e. do they permit an at-will termination, which a lot of states do. And then secondly, and more importantly, is what does your employment agreement say? Because a lot of the times what the state laws will be like, okay, assuming nothing is written, these are going to be the basic rules. But then when you have an employment agreement, you can set your own rules. And so long as you don't contravene what's written in the state law, you can come up with any relationship that you want. So that's a situation. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's say an employee, like you say what you said, and let's say an employee goes, well, what does that mean then? Does that mean that they're going to take my spot and I don't work here anymore?
What it means is everyone who is showing up to work and will be working is doing so voluntarily.
But does that mean I'm going to get paid?
It depends if you filed for unemployment and how all of that has worked out. Like, have I been paying you the whole time? Am I stopping now? Were we recording things virtually? Like, if we were recording things virtually and I was paying you for that, and now we're moving into employment in the physical workplace, and you're deciding not to come in, that's the same as you deciding not to record the videos, right?
Okay. Right. So basically what you're saying is, if you've been paid to work already, you weren't paid to stay at home, you were paid to work. Now we're still going to pay you to work, but if you're not going to work, then that's something that you have to understand. We don't pay people to not work.
It's like, I guess my question is, do you pay your staff if they don't come into the office?
No. Well, right now, but if they don't work, yeah.
Exactly. I'm not saying if they don't. What I mean to say is if you know, you've got the office, everyone's there, everyone comes in, and someone's like, oh, I'm just deciding not to come in, would you still pay that person?
No.
And no, the answer is no. And like, it's very reasonable in this conversation of what it is. But again, Mike, the two things is, one is, how do you manage the relationships of your team? How do you communicate this to your team? And like, all of us as business owners, we have to be the leader and say, you know, express what's happening and why it's happening. And then secondly, what does the written agreement say? And I could see, if you have a written agreement where you're paying someone to perform services and they are not performing those services, I don't see how they can make an argument that they would be allowed to be paid for that.
Okay. So that's another thing too. So we do offer letters and we have agreements when we sign on employees. I don't know if a lot of studios do. I think a lot of studios just kind of sign people up. Are you there? Did you freeze on me? Did that Brazilian Wi-Fi freeze you?
Mm-hmm. So I was moving along to the next point, but basically to sum up the employment stuff, it's like, it's very murky waters, and there's not really a rule book. Step one is manage the relationships as best as possible. And step two, like, have awesome employment agreements written out so that you can directly address, like, you can proactively address the situation, even by something like, if you're not performing the services, you will not be getting paid, full stop.
If you don't, and I don't know if you were saying this, but if you don't currently have employment agreements, is it too late to make them now?
No, and that's a perfect feeder to the next thing of what I wanted to say is, what's really also happening during this time is that it's the best time to, and I'm just going to move again, but this is really the best time possible to redo your legal agreements, because the atmosphere is so different and the environment is so unique that normally I have a lot of clients who run fitness studios or gyms, and they're like, oh, you know what, we were thinking about the contractor. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, sorry.
So people will say, oh, you know, we wanted to update our studio membership agreement, but we didn't have a chance. Or I've been meaning to do it, but I haven't. And same, you know, maybe with the contractor employee distinction. And then just what I've seen is like, this is the best time to update all of your agreements, because we're entering into a new world of business. Probably everyone's business model has changed significantly. And that's a great opportunity just to say to people like, hey, we've decided to work with a lawyer and revisit our agreements. You know, however unpredictable everything that happened was, we want to make sure we're on the same page moving forward.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. Cory, really quick, because we got to hop off here soon. Did you ever start that group, that Facebook group?
Yes, we have. We're getting going. Our first call is coming up next week. So just a really quick spiel about it. The idea is that we have two offers of legal coaching or working with a lawyer.
And really quick too, for everyone on right now, I need you to listen to this. Don't think this is like, okay, we're rounding off, so I'll sign off now. What Cory and I are about to talk to you about is actually really, really important. So stay in. It's going to be another 2 minutes because I got to hop off anyway. So Cory, explain what this group is.
Cool. So we have two options. One of them is legal group coaching. What we're going to do is we have weekly calls, and it's going to be 1 hour long, unlimited question. Any question you have about the law in your business, you bring it to our Tuesday calls, and I'm going to answer everything. You can ask 17 questions. You can ask 18 questions. It's continued unlimited support from me, a lawyer who understands your business, and just communicating in a really simple, basic, practical way. The other offering that we have is something called Conscious Counsel Extra, and that's more like private lawyer on demand, unlimited questions and unlimited support in dealing through issues with a 24-hour turnaround. If you join the Facebook group or the law coaching group, there's a 10% off of all future services. If you join Conscious Counsel Extra, there's a 20% off all documents and anything you need. So now would be a great time to sign up as well. And we'd love to have you. And sorry, Mike, the last thing I have to say is the reason we're offering it is because the same clients ask the same questions and end up paying way more than the cost of the group, just for me to answer someone individually. So like, let's get together, let's get all of our business legally organized and have support moving forward.
Yeah. So guys, for everyone watching, you guys have heard me talk about this a million times. I have a lot of different coaches. I don't want to figure things out on my own. I want to go to people that have got answers, which is why I go to Cory in a lot of cases and bring him in here. But you guys probably see a lot of value in this group. I know you do. You're here. We got a lot of people that are live right now. So you want to look for areas where you can have coaching or mentorship in all areas. What Cory's built is essentially this Facebook group, but just for people in the fitness space that want to learn more about the legal things they need to understand. So if you have a legal question, just like you asked me about marketing or sales or retention or anything like that, if you have a legal question, you can just post it in the group, and then Cory will be able to go through and answer those on a weekly basis, go through. And then I think you said, Cory, if they have two different levels. One of them is a very, very easy one to get into. That one, you go live once a week. And then there's another one where it's
and then there's Conscious Counsel Extra, which is confidential. If there's an issue that's coming up, you'll be in communication with us. We provide answers and support. And the whole idea with that is like getting to a problem, like getting to an issue before it becomes a problem. And like, hey, I've got my lawyer on tap. Oh, cool, Cory, I've got this question about my waiver, someone signing it, this, that, or the other. Or if there's like a sexual misconduct issue or whatever, like hit me up. We've got an awesome team. We love you guys. We love all the fitness businesses. We want to support you. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. I love it. So Cory, how can people learn about that option?
There's a website that I believe the link is lawwithcory.com. It's legalwithcory.com. So you go to legalwithcory.com and it'll take you through our landing page and just totally sort you out. And we've got 136 5-star reviews with our clients. We do awesome work. We love supporting. This lights me up, obviously. And I'd love to make law fun and offer great support for people so that you can be proactive with these issues and be in great shape.
Love it. Guys, this is a group that you 100% should join. It's a fantastic option to be able to just have a place to go ask someone these questions. And Cory's the man. I mean, he's not just an attorney, but he's an attorney specifically in this space. So it's really great when you can get granular at that. Same thing with me, right? You guys like that, not so much that I'm a marketing guy or I'm a sales guy, but I'm a marketing or sales guy specifically with this space. And that's why it works so much better. All right, Cory, I got to get going. I got a speech to give in like 20 minutes. All right.
Hey, be awesome, dude. Lovely to see you. Sending my love. All the best.
Same here. Thanks, man. Take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for watching. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, or YouTube. And to watch more episodes and get exclusive links from each episode, go to gsdshow.com. Again, that's gsdshow.com.